in just a minute after I go over homework questions. All right, which one was it? Which one did you say? 9. All right, if you will look at number 9 with me. 7x squared minus 10x plus 9 by minus 2x. So I want to make sure it equals 0 before I start. So to do that, I'm going to move the 2x by adding and subtracting the 5 there to make it 0. So I get 7x squared minus 8x plus 4 equals 0. All right, so there's my A, my B, and my C. So opposite B plus or minus the square root of B squared minus 4 times A times C, and everybody goes over 2A. A plus or minus the square root of 64 minus, I don't know what that comes out to be. Thank you. 112 over 14. And that was 64 minus 112. 28, 48. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over to the side, and I'm going to kind of break that apart off to the side and see how it simplifies. So what's the biggest perfect square? Obviously, I know that there's going to be an I in it because of the negative. But for the 48, what's the biggest perfect square you can divide it by? 16 and what? 3. So that would give me 4 root 3, and I've got the I, so I end up with 8 plus or minus 4I root 3 over 14. And now, and I think this is where you were asking the question, can you simplify even though it has an I, and the answer is yes. So as long as I can divide all 3 of these by the same thing, I can simplify. So what's the common factor there, the greatest common factor I could divide them all by? 2. And it would leave me with 4 plus or minus 2I root 3 over 7. Final answer. You can't do anything else with it. And you can split it up if you wanted to, but since they're not, unless this ends up being an even square root, you don't need to split it up. Yeah. It just wouldn't be all the way. I'd probably say make sure you simplify next time. But other questions? 11? 11. So 11 doesn't matter which side you move everything to. That's the beauty of the quadratic formula, is it doesn't matter if it's everything's on the left or everything's on the right, but you have to be very careful to make sure you're in standard form. So I'm just going to move this 8x over. It's going to go in the middle because that's my B. And now I'm ready to plug in A, B, and C. So x equals opposite B plus or minus the square root of B squared minus 4 times A times C, everybody over 2A. 8 plus or minus square root of, this is 64, and then I have, I don't know what that comes out to be. What's 4 times 2 times 24? Anybody? Definitely going to be a plus because of the 2 negatives. 8 times 4 is 32, carry that. 3, 112. Is that what y'all got? Yes, no, maybe so. Let's see. 24 times 8. 32, carry your 3, so you're right. Good job. And then whenever I add 64 to that, 256. Is 256 a perfect square? I feel like it might be. What's the square of 256? 16? Thank you. 8 plus or minus 16 over negative 4. Here's where I do want to split it up. Since I got that perfect square and that number there, I want to say that x is 8 plus 16 over negative 4, or x is 8 minus 16 over negative 4. Yes, so I'm going to simplify it now. You could do that ahead of time if you wanted to. I would tend to probably just go ahead and say, well, this is 24 over negative 4, which is negative 6. And this is negative 8 over negative 4, which is positive 2. 11. It doesn't. Anything else? 10. Ooh, 10's good. 10 is missing something. What is it missing? It's missing, oh, close. Look again. It's missing B. How you know B is missing and not C? The X, right. I'm looking for the X. So A is negative 12, B is 0, C is 21. So I have opposite B, which opposite of 0 is just 0, plus or minus square root of B squared minus 4 times A times C, all over 2A. I have no idea. 48 times 21. Excuse me. Y'all are not very helpful today. What's 48 times 21? 1008. Is that a perfect square? No. This. So 144 times 7 is 1008. All right, so I end up with plus or minus 12 root 7 over negative 24. These two can be divided, yes. And what's it leave me with? You can't do anything else there. Anything else? This leaves me, while I'm here, I might as well go ahead and address this, and that way I don't have to sit up here and talk to you anymore. So if you got your notebook, let me just address this real quick. This is just a little side note to the quadratic formula, but it will be on your test, so I want to make sure I address it. As you're going through the quadratic formula, there's a little part in the quadratic formula. Let me write it. That tells me a lot about my solutions and what they're going to look like. And that's what we call the discriminant. And the discriminant is simply that piece, that piece that's under the radical, okay? And if you're going through, this keeps you from having to do the entire quadratic formula. You know how we talked about these different scenarios? Here, there's no real solutions. There's two imaginary solutions. Here, there's two real solutions. And then there's one other scenario. What's it look like? The vertex sits right there, and there's just one solution. The discriminant can tell us which of these scenarios that we're in. So if we just plug into b squared minus 4ac, if we get a positive number, it tells us that there are two real solutions. If we get a negative number, and the reason is if you take the square root of a negative number, you get two answers. I mean, a positive number, you get two answers, right? What's the square root of 4? Or negative 2. That's exactly right. Plus or minus 2. What happens if you take the square root of a negative number? If you take the square root of a negative number, it's imaginary. How many imaginaries do you get? 2. Right? Don't I still do the plus or minus? Because I took the square root. So I get 2 imaginary numbers. And there's one other scenario. If I'm not positive or negative, then what else could I be? 0. And if you get 0 under the radical, you have one real solution. That's when my vertex sits right there. So you'll have two questions on your test that say, use the discriminant to determine the number and type of solutions. And what you will do is you will take the equation. Let's just say, since you've got your homework out anyway, look at number 7. Number 7 is 3x squared plus 5x equals 8. And if I said use the discriminant to tell me the number and types of solutions, I'm going to make it equal 0. And all I'm going to do is just the part that's under the radical. Does that make sense? So 25 minus 4 times 3 times negative 8. Will that give me a positive, a negative, or 0? How do you know? Without even working it, how do you know? Two negatives, this is going to be 25 plus 4 times 3 times 8. I don't have to know the value, I just know that's a positive number. So I know that I'm going to have two real solutions. I don't care what they are, I just want to know how many I have and what they look like. So I know without even graphing, without solving, without doing anything else, that this is going to cross 2 times. And that's all discriminant does. And I know that that was really fast.